Welcome to the Drapery, Dr. Chris Baker, DC, right here. Today we're going to go over the Week 3 Standard Pauper Gauntlet through Magic the Gathering Strat. We've got a new deck. I kind of feel like I want to do a new deck every single week. And so how I got inspired by this deck. First off, I'll show you what I played at SPDC. I got top 4 with Boros Heroic. I got the idea, I think it was from VG Factor or Sam. But this deck is really cool, mainly because it plays 3 specific cards. Chosen by Heliod, Defiant, Strike, and Dragon Mantle, all heroic enablers and all cantrips, which enable your heroic guys, Crusaders, Skyguard, Hoplite, and Trailblazer to get their triggers for basically free, and then you get to draw more cards and kind of go off. Jeskai Student's also very good with this plan because he can get to be almost like a 2/4 for 2 mana a lot of times and can grow bigger and just be hard to kill in the early game, since a lot of things don't deal only 2 damage. So yeah, so this deck was really sweet. It had the full 4 Gods Willing 4 feet of resistance to protect, which is really good. And then just tons of ways to enable your heroic guys. The only weird part about this deck is the 8 comes into play tap lands, 4 Evolving Wilds, 4 Windscarred Crag. So it can be a little bit slow for a heroic deck, but it's more of like an aggro combo deck. Is what I called this, because it gets a turn where if they tap out, or if it's like turn 5 and you have like 2 heroic creatures in play, you can just kind of start chaining all these cantrip spells and really get some value. Cards that were close, but I didn't think were good enough for like Titan Strength and Hammerhand. Don't have enough of a long-term effect. And Inferno Fist was a great card to combine mainly with this Lagana Band Trailblazer, because I find this card to be really bad, mainly because it doesn't end the game fast enough. But putting just, turn 1 this, turn 2 Inferno Fist, is a 3/5, which is pretty sick to be attacking with that on turn 2. And then having the ability to shock, goes to the face. It acts as removal, which we don't have any of in the main deck, so it can kill Death Touch creatures. Or prevent double blocks. So this deck was just pretty sweet. Felt pretty good, but I didn't really like the 2-color nature of it. So then the very next day, Godzo actually decided to play a deck that looks real with a bunch of 4-ofs and actually a good strategy. He tends to win with these decks that have like a bunch of 1-ofs, like an absurd amount of 1-ofs. And he just probably outplays people, and he's good enough that it doesn't matter. But this deck looks actually really good. So I decided to play this deck. This is actually exactly what I played for the Week 3 against Scramble. The only thing that I changed was the sideboard. I didn't like Last Breath. I don't want my opponent to gain life ever, because we're pretty aggressive. I upped it to 4 Pillar of Light. That card's fantastic against the green decks or anything like Grey Merchant or Scholar of Athros. I like 3 Kill Shot. That's fine. I don't think you need 3 Erase. I cut down to 2. I don't think you need 3 to Johnny's Presence. I cut down to 2. So that means my sideboard currently had enough room for some Crow and Mastiff, the 4-mana tapper. I really like that card for the mirror and for any other big creature deck like that can protect the creatures. Like Pillar of Light's not that great against Ranger's Guile on Nessian Asp, let's say. But if we have a tapper in play and they don't have that much removal, or if they're using all of their early removal on our heroic guys that we're trying to grow, then we can land a tapper and just really just have repeatable removal, which is great. So this was my inspiration for the deck. The deck that I have loaded up right now is my 2.0 version of it. Now I did not play this deck in the event. I'm going to get this preview pane up. There we go. Alright. So, mana base, 16 planes, 20 land total with the 4 fountains. It's a little dicey because look at all these 1-drops. They only require white, but we got some bestow guys and a bunch of other colorless mana symbols, so we can get away with playing Radiant Fountain, I think. Changes I made to his version of the deck were I cut 3 ephemeral shields. I actually think playing 1 at minimum is absolutely correct. It's really hard to play around this card. Because oftentimes you'll think when they're tapped out that's the perfect time to go for it, try to kill their guy. So saving it is great, but I don't think it's that powerful of a card, so I only really want 1 and force people to play around it, but just not draw it very often. So I cut 3 of those. I also cut 4 Chosen by Heliod, or Chosen of Heliod. It is nice to get some extra toughness, but this deck has plenty of toughness on a lot of creatures, especially when you're running something like the Shield Mate. So I replaced that with Defiant Strike. It just gives a little bit more access to instant speed, +1/+1 counters on things like the Skyguard and the Wingsteed Rider, which could help it get out of range of like a Magma Spray or Freaka's Cure, Debilitating Injury. And I like the extra power boost it gives for something like the Gunnerband Trailblazer, since it can maybe kill a creature, deal some extra damage that they wouldn't be expecting. Just like the other deck that I played, it's got 4 God's Willing, 4 Feet of Resistance. Protection spells are fantastic. And the Bestow guys, Hopeful Eidolon's really good against any deck trying to race. So gaining life is huge. Shieldmate's awesome turn 3 play if we can bestow it onto any of our 2-drops. So the Sun Guide, I actually played with him in the very first event of the season when I played Blue-White Token Treasure Cruise. And he was really good. I was using him with Convoke, trying to get triplicate spirits and stuff to have him gain some life for free, but just making him big and attacking is pretty good. 2 life every turn he attacks. If he untaps is really solid. And then Wingsteed Rider. This is the main difference between the Boros heroic deck and this mono white heroic deck, is that the Boros doesn't necessarily want to support a double white card because of Dragon Mantle. So yeah, Wingsteed Rider is super powerful and very good. Mainly because it kind of dodges Fester Gloom and Scouring Sands right when it's in play, which is what a lot of people will side in against you when you're playing the Boros deck because of a Crone Crusader. So he's pretty good to dodge that. And also I liked to add, so basically I replaced 4 Chosen by Heliod with 4 Defiant Strike, and I replaced 3 Ephemeral Shields with 3 Observant Alseid. Obviously not a combo with this guy, but very good in any race situation, and just having more bestow guys is pretty great. He does cost 5 to bestow, and I don't really think he's ever super solid as a 3-drop. But even if you play him as a 3-drop, you can bestow onto him, and the creature will still be a 3/4 Vigilance, or 3/3 Lifelink Vigilance, which is still pretty solid, and it can grow with this. So I think this guy's pretty solid. So yeah, this deck looks amazing. It doesn't have that much card advantage, and you maybe want to try to play the Chosen by Heliod's and the Defiant Strikes, just to, again, get that churn through your deck feel. Because the deck really is combo-y. It needs early heroic creatures and then heroic enablers after that. And sometimes you just, will be missing one half of the equation. And the more cards that you draw, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to apply the pressure you need. So that's the deck tech. Sideboard wise, again, I just upped 1 Pillar of Light, kept the kill shots, dropped and erase. This is good for like Font of Return in the black-white deck or the mono-black deck, so they can't keep returning all their guys. Good against bestow creatures. Debilitating injury. Donnie's Present, pretty good if you know, if they're kind of like a control-y deck and you want to be able to target multiple creatures, like if they're going to be double blocking or if they're going to be playing destroy effects. It's just good to have extra of that card. It does not have a better application over Feet and God's Willing because protection from a color stops bounce spells and crippling chill and stuff like that. And this does not. But this is, arguably better because it can strive. It could be better than these Defiant Strikes. It's more powerful. But I like the aspect of just like cycling through the deck a little bit more. Last but not least, we got a Crowan Mastiff. This card I think is really sweet. Because in games where they're trying to just kill all your stuff, or if they have really big creatures, this can kind of take over the game in a way nothing else in white can, because it can tap a guy down at their end of turn, tap a guy down before you go to attack. If you have two of these out, it just makes it really easy for you to control combat. So again, I've played 0 games with this deck, and I am basically theory crafting every single thing in the sideboard and these changes. So that's the deck tech of what I would play now. Keep in mind that for this event that I had against Scramble for the week 3 of this Standard Proper Gauntlet, I played Godzo's main deck list with the Chosen by Heliod's and Ephemeral Shields, but I played my sideboard here. But I wasn't sure. I figured Chosen by Heliod could be really important if they're playing a lot of removal that's toughness based. But this can boost toughness too, and I think it's just a little bit easier to cast and not being sorcery speed, and I think it's just better. And this card is just kind of weak, so I explained why the changes I made, and yeah, so deck is pretty sweet, so stay tuned. We'll have round 3 of the gauntlet coming up next.